How would you like to improve your health and keep your family safe? You're listening to the Healthy Home Hacks podcast, where we firmly believe enjoying optimal health shouldn't be a luxury. Healthy Home Authorities and husband and wife team Ron and Lisa will help you create a home environment that will level up your health. It's time to hear from the experts. Listen in on honest conversations and gain the best tips and advice. If you're ready to dive in and improve your well-being and increase your energy, you're in the right place. All right, here are your hosts, bowel biologists, authors, media darlings, vicarious vegans, and avocado aficionados, Ron and Lisa Barris.
This episode of Healthy Home Hacks is brought to you by Veris Residential, a forward-thinking and socially responsible real estate investment trust that provides holistically inspired, Class A multifamily properties that meet the sustainability-conscious lifestyle needs of today's residents. It's the company's mission to serve properties, people, and the planet. Veris Residential has done the work to integrate eco-friendly amenities into its properties so that you can reduce your carbon footprint simply by walking through the doors. The company's newest development, House 25 in Jersey City, features source hydro panels, an advanced renewable technology that uses solar power to extract net zero water from the air. 24 electric vehicle Blink IQ 200 charging stations, 375 bike parking spaces, Wi-Fi enabled thermostats, Energy Star appliances, and 37,000 square feet of gardens and outdoor amenities, including a green roof. Visit house25.com or verisresidential.com to learn more.
The term landscape, as it's entered in the English language, is misleading. It assumes the viewer is somehow outside or separate from the territory he or she surveys. Viewers are as much a part of the landscape as the boulders they stand on. There is no high mesa edge or mountain peak where one can stand and not immediately be part of all that surrounds. Leslie Marmon Silko.
Water is a precious resource, and many people don't have enough of it. In fact, according to Drought.gov, 29 states are experiencing severe to exceptional drought. Today, most households in the U.S. waste a huge amount of water each year, and it's time we start doing something about it. You can start today with your yard. If you've considered increasing your curb appeal with a drought-tolerant yard, you've come to the right place. Let's face it, it's time to say sayonara to water-guzzling lawns.
Join the likes of other happy people who have cut their water bills by up to 50%. Not only are drought-tolerant landscapes beautiful, they're earth-friendly and sustainable. As a bonus, they can increase your property value significantly without breaking the bank. Our guest today is going to shed some green light on this issue.
Rama Nayeri was born in Iran and migrated to the U.S. in 1984, settling right here in Irvine, California, where she grew up. As the daughter of a surgeon and teacher, Rama found her talents reach beyond the scalpel and the pencil and straight into the soil. As a creative, Rama discovered her passion for working outdoors with plants and earned her landscape architecture degree from Cal Poly Pomona. Today, Rama is active in the green community and deeply committed to promoting drought-tolerant landscape design within Southern California.
Welcome to the show, Rama.
Thank you for having me.
Woohoo! Welcome, Rama. Thank you for being with us. We've known Rama for many, many years, although we haven't really been in touch. We met her through green community here locally in Southern California, and we were just getting caught up before the show. So we were always fascinated with the work that she does, and I know you guys are going to love this too. So let's just get started. The million-dollar question, Rama. Should we all just trash our lawns? And if so, is synthetic turf a good replacement?
So I would suggest if you absolutely need to have lawn because you have kids or grandkids that are going to run around and play in it, then that gives you a reason to keep it. However, it also depends whether you trash it or not based on what you can afford, because what a lot of people don't realize is it's easy to say that, okay, I'm going to kill my lawn and replace it. But at the end of the day, that has a cost value to the designer who might design some sort of other drought tolerant sustainable landscape, but then also to the contractor who has to implement it. So normally what I tell people to do is to look at how much can you realistically afford. And maybe we don't take out all the lawn. Maybe we take out a quarter of it. And then the following year or the year after that, we revisit the issue if you decide you want to take out more and you can financially afford it. Now, the other thing is the Municipal Water District of Orange County is actually giving rebates for turf removal.
Nice.
It depends on what water district you live in.
And that's Orange County, California, because there's an Orange County, Florida too.
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, the Irvine Ranch Water District is offering $5 per square foot of turf you remove and replace with something else. So, like, let's say you have 1,000 square feet of turf times $5. That's a significant chunk of change.
Right.
Wow.
See, people don't know about this.
And the other thing of it is the water district is currently offering a free design service where if you sign up to have your turf removed, you can apply to get a free professional design.
Oh, that's really nice.
Now, Rama, I know everyone outside of Orange County, California is saying, well, okay, that's great for you guys. Is this a pretty common program across the country? Do you know?
I know that it's common across LA, Orange County, Long Beach. And like the way the city of Long Beach does it is you hire the designer and then up to $1,500 of what you paid the designer is reimbursed by Long Beach.
You got business through this? Okay, so we're going to, let's just plug her services right now. I was going to do that at the end, but this is a good time. So Rama's business is Creations Landscape Designs. Creations Landscape Designs. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes. So if you're living in one of those counties and you want to take advantage of this incredible program.
And it's a great program because the water district pays for the design, so the homeowner doesn't have to. The only thing the homeowner would pay for is whatever the cost of the construction is.
Right. Minus the removal if they're removing. Wow. So going back to the synthetic turf versus real turf, how do you feel about that? Because, you know, you're seeing the synthetic turf. It's gotten really good. It's gotten beautiful looking. You can't even tell the difference half the time visually.
In some cases, it's great. The only problem with most synthetic turfs is if it's ridiculously hot out, the synthetic turf will get hot to the touch.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So if you're walking, so let's say it's the summertime, like the last few weeks, that's been super hot. If you walk on the synthetic turf barefoot, your feet are going to be at least warm.
You do not want that in Arizona. I grew up in Arizona. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. It's already so hot there.
But sometimes it's nice to have the synthetic turf if you don't want the maintenance of the real turf. I mean, in some cases, you could have like a little patch of it where that's where the dog is going to go exclusively.
Yeah, exactly. I was curious what your take on that was going to be, because obviously I was saying at the top of the show, we met Rama through a green networking group here in Orange County. And obviously the turf is synthetic. It's derived from some kind of plastic as far as I know. But I think now I'm seeing that there are many brands that are 100% recyclable.
AstroTurf, for example, I wanted to ask you, what is it like now?
It was called AstroTurf. I think that's an old school name, Ron.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it, Rama?
I was thinking of my dad's generation, I think.
Okay.
So, AstroTurf, that whole texture, that feel, I do remember back in the day when it was synthetic, that if you tackled on it or did anything, you got like rug burns almost. It was very different.
Ron, that's what they use in all the domes.
I wanted to ask now, though, what is it like now? Is it softer to the touch? It may be hot. You're saying don't play football in the summer on this grass.
In Arizona.
But can you fall down on it as a child who's playing tag or something and be okay?
It depends on which variety you use. I don't have too much experience with it. I normally don't.
You're not playing tag with kids? What's going on, Rob?
I mean, I'd say the technology is better now that you get less issues, but still, I'm always advocating for less plastic if possible.
Right, exactly. I figured that. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's nice that they're now 100% recyclable. Ron, and to answer your question, I've seen like really long versions where it's very soft. Some of this turf, I've been in places where I'm like at hotels, a lot of big resorts have it now.
So when I played in high school a couple of years ago was different, I think. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. And I think, let's ask Tom Brady what they used in Boston. Don't they have a dome in Boston? I hope.
Well, first of all, he's in Tampa right now, but that's okay.
When he was, we're getting sidetracked. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
For sure. I had this question for you, Rama. So How has the COVID pandemic really affected the landscape industry?
So I've had this feeling during the pandemic of almost feeling guilty because I also, aside from having my own business, work part-time for a landscape design company doing strictly turf rebate designs. And on the upside, I have done more designs in a given year than I have ever in the history of my business.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Which, from the perspective of making money and owning a business, it's great. For this specific company, I work as a contract employee. So I still get to make my own hours and not have to technically clock into a cubicle. But like, for example, last year I did almost close to 90 designs.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Rama. That's
Wow.
Which is great from the perspective of making money. But then from the perspective of there's so many people during COVID that lost their jobs, I almost feel a little guilty that I have all this business coming in and there are other people that don't.
Well, now that you revealed this secret, I feel like you're going to have more competitors.
You're going to have competition now.
They're like, that's where all the jobs are. I'm going there. So good tip, Rama.
The COVID has definitely increased business for most designers and contractors because people are now working from home. So every day they're looking outside the office window at their landscape and they're going, okay, maybe I should do something.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's true. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Whereas before you were just getting out the door, going to work and, I'll just deal with this later.
Yeah. Interior design, home renovation, remodels, all of that. People were shopping a lot online and like, oh God, I never realized how horrible that corner of my living room looked, or how old that piece of furniture was. And everyone's starting to pay attention.
And I'm having even situations with contractors where the contractors are telling me, look, why don't you send me the drawings and I can decide if I even want to bid this? Because they have so much work that they're being picky about what they'll take.
Wow. And so most people are doing turf replacement or just removal? Both. Okay. So they're just realizing because California, it's not a good state for grass, obviously. I mean,
it is not.
How many times do you think it rained this year, you guys? 3, 4? I mean, we could count on one hand, right? It hardly ever rains, which is great when you live here, but not so great for these types of.
But then also the other thing of it is when you replace your turf with actual drought-tolerant plant material, is that you're bringing all the local wildlife to your house.
Yeah.
And I tell my customers that the local wildlife are going to come have a party at your house and not go to someone else's.
Ron and I will give them a party. We do. We'll throw a great party because we love wildlife so much. We feed our hummingbirds. Ron feeds our doves. We have 20 doves that Ron feeds every day. And I feed probably 10 hummingbirds every day. And these are literally our pets because we don't have a pet inside. And before that, it was, dang, we got the neighborhood squirrel. We've got everybody here.
Well, it's interesting. My mom, she has squirrels outside her home and she feeds them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would feed this little guy. He has a name. His name is Skippy. Skippy the squirrel. He's adorable. And I don't know if he's eating the bird food. He probably is.
He is eating the bird food. That's why he's here, right? He's in on the dove food action.
Yeah. Only the best for our animals too, Rama. Everything's like organic. I use only filtered water to my hummingbird feeder and they all come here. So they know. But anyways, moving on. So for someone tuning in going, what the heck is native landscaping and what is this drought tolerant yard that you're talking about? Explain to them what are native plants and how can listeners incorporate them into their garden with existing plants too?
So native plants are essentially plants that were in the state of California, the ones that are specifically native to California that were here probably before we even inhabited the area. And these are plants that are already acclimated to the local soils that some specific wildlife even prefer over the non-natives. And all native plants are very drought tolerant, don't need a lot of water, don't need too much maintenance. The problem in using native plants is some homeowners associate the native garden with the Arizona desert kind of look.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they assume, it's just going to be a bunch of succulents and cacti. But then I try and educate my customers and tell them it's not like that unless you wanted it to be like that.
Right. I thought that. I did. I don't know why. Native, because we think of Native American. I don't know. I thought that
probably. But most native plants are green year round. They don't need a lot of care. And as long as you have a system that waters them once or twice a week, they'll be fine. They produce flowers that the local hummingbirds and butterflies love to eat from, or they produce flowers that the pollinators love. And in terms of incorporating the natives with the non-natives, if you have existing plants in your yard, chances are there are some native plants that visually, in terms of size, texture, leaf shape, look similar. So you can incorporate some of those and kind of mimic the look of what you have.
Okay. Because your gardens, when you create a garden in a yard for someone, there's a theme, right? Maybe we're going to go like a Mediterranean or whatever. Okay. So that's interesting. So what's the biggest no-no that you see a lot of here that you're like, oh, it's so bad for hogging water, but people love it and they use a lot of it besides grass?
Well, one of the things I see is when people plant their garden and they put twice as many plants as what the garden realistically will take. Because the one thing you have to imagine is if you get a 1 gallon, let's say Salvia clevelandii, now that plant eventually will get about 5 feet tall and wide. But in a small 1 gallon container, it doesn't look like that. So people think, oh, this is small. I need to plant a few together. And if you don't leave sufficient room for the plant to grow, then you end up with a nightmare of having to constantly trim it because it grows into each other.
Yeah. Okay. I'm having that problem with my snake plant. Not too bad, but he's in a pot and he's having baby. Well, I guess it's a she's having babies because it's like, it has the little, what do you call it? The leaves go and then they produce another
in the same
snake
pot,
plant.
yeah.
And I didn't know that. I was like, where are all these snake plants coming from? And I Googled it and sure enough, oh yeah, they have little babies.
It's interesting. There's another name for a snake plant called mother-in-law's tongue.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
do. I know. I show it to my mother-in-law every time she comes. Her name is Terry. And I go, that's my Terry plant. Because it has a sharp tongue, right?
True story.
So like in that situation, Rama, because snake plants can get really big, would you say you're always repotting it? Or is there a point where you're like, no, it's in a big enough pot. And we're just going to keep it here and just maintain it?
For me, it's always a point where I just leave it and let it do whatever it's going to do.
Okay.
Unless it starts breaking the pot that it's in and it needs to be replaced, then I replace it. But otherwise, I just leave it alone.
Okay. It'll kind of tell you, right? It'll let you know if it's outgrown. Okay. That's a really good tip.
And that's something where like you'll know if it's outgrown because visually you'll just know.
You'll just know. Okay. Yeah. It's funny what you said about, I think people do that a lot with their gardens. What you said, I got an olive tree gifted to me and it's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite trees looking. And I wanted it really little, but it's 3 feet tall and it's in the house in a pot and it's gorgeous. But like this thing's going to get so big, you can tell like it's going to need to be moved outside in the yard at some point.
Right.
So.
And Rama, we have 2 years until we get olives from that tree, right? Basically 2 years.
I think so. If it's a producing olive, yes.
Oh, so we don't even know if it's producing, right?
We don't know.
There are some varieties of olive trees that have been sprayed to prevent them from actually producing any fruit. Because sometimes people want an ornamental olive in their yard. Oh. They just don't want to deal with the fruit.
Because they do get messy, don't they?
Right.
Yeah. Those olives get all over, but they are gorgeous. Now, is that a native
beautiful
plant? Because it is. Okay.
It's very drought tolerant.
Okay.
But it's just not native to California.
Okay. Would you use that in a landscape design?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I would use varieties there's a variety of olives called Swan Hill. And I would use such varieties that don't fruit in case the homeowner doesn't want to deal with the mess of the fruit.
Okay. Gotcha. That's good tips. Yeah.
Really good tips. Well, what are some sustainable practices and features that can be incorporated in a garden?
So there's lots of things you can do within a garden. A couple of the things is having a rain barrel. Even though it doesn't rain that often, you could have a rain barrel that's connected to the gutter.
Oh, rain barrel. Oh, I said rainbow at first. I was like, well, how am I going to control that?
Permanently in my yard.
You need a leprechaun on your lawn and then the rainbow comes. Okay, sorry, Ram. I digress.
Leprechaun required.
That's
prerequisite.
Okay. So the first is a rain barrel. You connect it to the gutter. And then at the bottom of the rain barrel is a spigot that you can connect a hose to. And then you can use the water when the barrel fills up to do whatever you wish to do with it. Another feature you can have is called the dry riverbed. And it kind of flows through the center of the yard. It has a slight swale to it, and the width of it can be whatever suits your fancy, where then when it rains, it collects the water in a pool. And the idea is then the water will percolate through the gravel that's used in the dry riverbed instead of running off into the street.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then another option for a sustainability feature in the yard is to have what's called a rock garden, where instead of using wood chips as mulch in your garden, you would basically mulch it with whatever size of gravel you like. And then that also helps with being able to keep the water from running off.
Okay. Because that's good to do in your pot sometimes too, isn't it, Rama?
Right.
Where
absolutely.
Under the soil, you would want a little.
Just a little bit is fine. Yes.
Just a little. Yeah. Because I had a flower box that I got at Crate and Barrel. And for some reason, it didn't have any drainage holes in it. So it was metal.
Okay.
And I would put the soil and have the flowers in it. And oh my God, most people, I'm sure I was overwatering it anyway. And then I'm like, oh no, the water has nowhere to go. And it started rusting. Actually, it started rusting and actually ended up caving in and making a hole. But I thought, I'd read, if I had put gravel down, pebbles or something on the bottom, and then put the soil, it would have had a little drainage in there, right?
Right, exactly. Normally you put like a handful depending on the size of the pot. And then that allows for drainage. And then whatever excess water collects down there, you assume that the plant roots will eventually reach it and take what they need.
Right. Okay. So what would you say is the percentage of people that overwater their plants and their yard?
I'd say at least 30% of people. But what I always recommend to my clients is never hand water. First of all, because it gets very tedious over a period of time. And talking hand watering a traditional garden where you have actual land. And I always recommend, if you can, have an irrigation system, because the benefit of having an actual irrigation system in your garden in ground is that the system turns on and off, so you don't have to worry about it. And now they have technologies where if it's raining, the system will automatically shut off.
Oh, wow. Like a Wi-Fi sensor probably.
Right. So it senses excess moisture and then it just shuts off until it senses that there is no moisture.
Right. Because that can cause problems, right? Like, oh, you just watered everything and now all of a sudden the storm's coming in. So now we've got, okay. Oh, wow. Learning a lot.
I was going to say, now the only thing with having an irrigation system is obviously there's the expense of it. So it's not going to be least expensive, but
what you make up in your water bill from getting rid of your turf.
Right.
Because people have to be paying a lot of money for their turf, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. You water
what's a typical bill, say a standard size home with a big grassy yard, your typical.
You'd probably pay at least a couple $100.
Yeah, just to water that yard.
Because with the lawn, you have to mow it regularly. You have to water it every day and you have to fertilize it every so often.
Yeah, that's a lot. You've got to be retired.
Hey, Ram, I just thought of a question. So obviously you do landscapes in Southern California and it's dry and we have to focus on water conservation. Is it more challenging in Southern California than it would be to be in the Northeast where it's cold and there's snow on the ground?
Well, I would say it's actually less challenging in California because part of what we have, which actually works out great, is our climate almost 24/7 is never super cold enough that you can't garden. So we have the privilege of being able to garden year round. If it's in an area where it snows, then that's a certain period of time where you can't do anything.
Yeah. And then they've got to deal with the freezing of the plants.
Right. And we don't have any of that. I mean, But then again, we also have to deal with the fact that maybe in the summer you water a little bit more because it's too hot. And you have to account for that. But other than that, we can essentially garden year round.
So what are some tips for someone looking to transform their garden on a shoestring budget, but still have a wildlife-friendly native plant garden?
So first, I would suggest if you have any turf in your landscape and you say live in Orange County and you want to remove the grass, I would first go to the Municipal Water District of Orange County website and inquire about the turf rebate program, because you're getting a free design. You're getting X dollars per square foot. It's between $3 to $5 depending on your specific water agency. And you're getting a professional design. And essentially, the designer has to consider sustainability features in your garden, which are required by the water district, and has to consider drought-tolerant plant material as well. And usually, if you want to add native plants in your garden, and if you live in Orange County, there's a nursery called Tree of Life in San Juan Capistrano. And every Saturday, they have some sort of lecture about California native plants. So you could kind of go there during some of their lectures and learn more about native plants and that specific nursery, I'd say about 90% of the plants they sell and grow are native plants. So then you can go physically look at native plants. And when you do, you realize it's not really a bunch of succulents and cacti. It's actually green plants.
Wow, you're right. Because as we started hiking more, Ron and I would notice like how lush in the canyons around here, how lush everything stays. Ron, we've really commented on it. I'm like, wow, you look down in that canyon, like between like Newport Laguna, like that whole area, it's like very green, like a lot of the year. You don't really see a lot of dried up. Yeah.
And by the way, for those who aren't in Orange County, I'm sure you can take a chance and go to your county website, right, and see if there's programs similar to what Orange County is offering, particularly in the Southwest. I'm sure Arizona, Nevada, all these places that are experiencing water issues probably have their own ideas and programs to help the homeowner too.
Yeah, I would think so. Especially the 29 states that are currently in a drought. They should.
Wow, there's that many?
Yeah, I actually went to the website yesterday because I wanted this information to be relevant. I was like, yowza, 29. Yeah.
This is all a good point too. So let's say, okay, I'm concerned about my garden. I'm concerned about my landscape. Rama, what is the process of working with a designer contractor? What is it like?
Okay, so I'll tell you how the process is if you were going to be working with me, because every designer and contractor does things slightly differently. But the way I work, at least, is I come to your house. I meet with you complimentary for an hour. Some designers charge for the initial hour, some don't. And in that hour, I try to gauge what is it that you're looking to do with your landscape. So I'll ask you a bunch of questions about what your intention is for the garden, what your purpose is, how do you ultimately want to be able to use the space. And I'll look at what you have that's already there. I might suggest, hey, maybe we should remove all the plants because they look kind of sad and wilted, and we replace all the plants. And then what I do from there is I write a design contract to the homeowner, at which point, if they like the design contract, then that's where I proceed. Now, I personally, along with a lot of my designer friends, absolutely will not work without a contract. And what I tell my homeowner clients is what the contract does is, let's say I'm proposing to charge you $1,500. If it ends up costing me more money than what I had quoted you, that doesn't matter. You signed a contract agreeing to pay $1,500, and that's all you're going to pay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if it costs me more money, that's no hindrance to you as the homeowner. Right.
As you get in there and you discover a big tree stump under the ground or something.
It creates accountability. I'm curious, have you had homeowners say, that's okay, I'm going to send you pictures and I want to quote from there? Is it ever done that way?
I have had some people do that. And I always tell the homeowner that I need to see the garden in real life. It's always easier when you look at it in person and when you meet with the prospective client in person, because they can also, meeting with you, gauge who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then decide if even you'd be a right fit for them. Mm-hmm. And then if I have a signed contract, then what I do is I always measure the site plan and I'd work everything digitally. And then I always do two options for the design, which I call concept drawings. And this is to give the homeowner, okay, you could do option A with these features or a slight modification in some way to do option B. And I like to take homeowners to physically look at the plants I'm proposing, if that's possible. If we're proposing, let's say, to use pavers in the driveway, I will actually take them to a place where they can see different samples of pavers from textures, sizes, so that they can physically see what it's going to look like. And then from there, once we've hashed all that out, I will then do a detailed two-dimensional drawing that I can then give to a contractor and say, okay, we have this drawing. Now, how much is it going to cost for you to construct it? And then what I like to do is refer contractors to clients, because these are contractors that I know are licensed, bonded, insured, have workman's comp. And I've worked with them before, so I can vouch for their quality of service. And I always recommend using a licensed contractor as opposed to someone who isn't.
Yeah. That goes across the board for many, many things, right?
Right.
Mold remediators, mold inspectors, all of that.
Yeah. Right. And specifically in the state of California, if you're doing major construction work to your landscape, it's actually illegal to use someone who isn't licensed.
Okay. In California.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm doing the math there. You had 90 projects last year, and you're meeting each one of these homeowners. I'm assuming not all 90 said yes, right? You didn't take vacation last year, did you?
No, I did not. I did this year, but not last year. But the way the 90 projects work is they get approved through the water district. So the company that I do the turf rebate designs for, how it all worked out was both me and the owner of that company had applied to be a chosen designer for the water district. I didn't get selected, but the other company did. And I was good friends with the owner of the other company. In the span of a month, they gave her about 30 names of people that had applied for the turf rebate program. And she somehow needed to do 30 designs. And at the time, I was looking to make changes to my home. So I needed extra cash, and it worked out.
Oh, that's great, Rama. That's awesome. Is it kind of like CAD then, where you do the drawings? Is it like on a computer, like AutoCAD? Would it be similar?
Everything. I actually use AutoCAD.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Everything I do, even from taking notes while I'm at the job site to even measuring the property, everything for me is digital.
Oh, wow. You're hip, Rama. You're hip.
Well, my theory with going digital is I have access to all my files from any device. But also, if I'm measuring the site and I'm writing it on a piece of paper, what happens if I lose that paper? Then I'm essentially screwed. So
yeah, that's true. And you have a really great YouTube account. I watched some of your videos. I'm very impressed because you're a one-man show, are you not?
Yes.
You're juggling a lot. That's great. Your videos are really helpful. So if you want to get to know her and her work, what's your YouTube channel?
If you search my business name, it'll show up.
Okay. Creations Landscape Design. Okay.
Yes.
Last question. How do you convince ideal clients who are not well-versed in natives to go native?
Well, sometimes if I'm, let's say, doing a turf rebate design or dealing with customers, if the customer tells me, you know what, I just want a bunch of drought-tolerant plants and they don't have any specific preference, then I just design a native garden. And they don't know the difference.
Oh, right. You don't even need to bring up the name.
I don't even need to bring it up. But in other times, if they're not well-versed in native plants and they're not sure about it, I show them lots of pretty pictures of native plants that look green year-round, that are in bloom, that look really pretty, and that almost always convinces them.
Yeah, picture's worth 1,000 words.
Right. But also the other thing is I have so many videos on my YouTube channel about native plants that by the time people call me, they're kind of already hip to the fact that that's primarily what I design. So if there was someone that found me and didn't adamantly want native plants, they probably wouldn't even call me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So the word native plants kind of has a negative connotation still.
Sometimes.
Drought tolerant doesn't. Everyone's okay. Okay. Even though it's really the same thing. That's really funny. Okay. Tell us one or two of your favorite native drought tolerant plants that's really green and beautiful.
One of my favorites is called Cleveland sage. It smells heavenly. It gets 5 to 6 feet tall and wide. It has purple flowers that the hummingbirds love. It looks great in a garden if you have room for it. Another native plant
called something sage. What was the name?
Cleveland sage.
Cleveland sage. What a pretty. Oh, it sounds beautiful.
Or the fancy term is Salvia clevelandii.
Oh, yeah, because they'll have like, what is it, Italian names or?
I think it's Latin something.
Okay.
And then one of my other favorite native plants is called Dudleya. And they come in different varieties, and it's just basically a really small succulent that looks pretty in the garden. It works well in pots.
Oh, wow. Succulents, they're so popular now. You see succulent walls, and there's like all the hotels have succulent.
Right.
Yeah. And succulents, what you water, like, because they are a cactus, right? They're part of the cactus family. So how often are you watering a succulent?
Well, you'd water it maybe like once a week. The other thing is, if you have pots in your garden, one thing you can do is stick your finger or like a stick inside the pot. If you pull it out and the stick is moist and filled moist with soil, then you know that the soil inside the pot is still moist and you don't have to water it.
Yes. That's a great tip, Rama. I've done that with chopsticks. I saved the chopsticks. There's a really good way to order Chinese food and you don't use those chopsticks. You can use that to test your plants. I found that I used to overwater and now I always find less is more. Like you can always add more, but once you overwater it, you really can kill the plant. Do you have any kind of recycle program for these plants that not the plants per se, but the trees. Like if you have a really big, beautiful tree in a client's yard that is going to have to be taken down, is there any way to repurpose that?
Usually there isn't. Part of the problem is when you cut down a tree, if you're going to reuse it, like let's say you completely shave it off, they have those machines that shave the trees. You have to make sure, first of all, that there's no seeds that are blooming on the tree, because then if you spread those seeds in the garden, then new plants can essentially grow. So that's why typically we don't do that unless it's in like an area where it's not somebody's actual house.
Oh, I guess I meant like repurpose the wood. Like we just interviewed an interior designer and they took the wood from the house, and then there's a place in San Diego that actually repurposes it into furniture. She has the dining room table now made out of the tree. Yeah, it's really cool because it was such a big, beautiful tree and you didn't just want to dispose of it. And I guess there's a place in San Diego. I can ask her the name if you're interested, and that's what they do.
I'd totally be interested. That'd be
okay.
Cool.
Yeah, she said it was rare to find that too. Well, I think this wraps our show. Thank you, Rama.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, this was really fun. To learn more about Rama's work and services, visit creationslandscapedesigns.com. She provides initial consultations, full landscape design, and small space patio design, guys. So if you don't have a big yard, you can still create a beautiful native garden on your deck. Her design offerings service Orange County, Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego County.
We'll have all the links in the show notes at ronalisa.com/podcast. And stay tuned next week, friends, and get ready to up-level your health. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of the Healthy Home Hacks podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more healthy living strategies and tactics to help you create the healthy home you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.